It's by the clock on the wall, it's 7 o'clock and all is well.
Okay, yeah.
So we need to call this meeting to order with 5 members present. I know that Brian had a work conflict and Marge is at a funeral, so we wish her family the best. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Dennis to approve the agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Oh, it's like Hawaii 5-0. Oh, never mind. Okay, sorry. Comments from the public?
Yeah.
Okay. On to section 4. Mike?
Actually, Shannon.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, sorry.
That's okay.
Whomever.
Actually, take my jacket off. I didn't know I said yes.
We are smoking it, I can tell you. Yes.
All right, well, obviously you see that Michael Kuntz is here. He is joining us. If you don't know him, he has helped us through the KLN process and also works through Greenbush. And so he's been working specifically with our district, as I'm sure he's been working with a lot of other districts as well. Another thing to kind of keep in mind as we start talking about this is we were the first school really to have a site visit from KLN to kind of get this process rolling under the new focus and priority schools. So this is new not only for us, this was new for KLN coming in, this is new for the State Department. So we're working through it, they're working through it, we're all kind of taking this a step at a time together. So by all means, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. If I don't know, I'm sure Michael can help us, and if we don't know, then the state might not know either. So we're just kind of all learning this together.
Now, we have a hard copy, right? Have you provided us the same thing in hard copy as electronic? Is that right?
You don't have what Shannon's going over.
I do have
Okay.
notes that I made, if you guys want my notes.
We have a hard copy of something.
I've got
That's-
electronic version.
Right.
Yeah,
The
the-
electronic, it's on
Some
there.
people
I
like
think
it
we
hard
probably
copy,
didn't
some
because
people
it's
it
like
electronic.
57
That's it.
pages.
Sorry,
Summary,
Susan, you
yeah.
missed the motion. Andy said we've got to reduce our copies because we're selling too many.
As of
trees.
Saturday,
Don't
I
get
was
a
not
hard
allowed to
copy.
make a
We
copy.
no longer get hard copies. We need to break that habit. Because
Yeah.
Andy,
I've always
Andy
heard
told
that
me
about
if
you,
I can
Andy.
save money, we can actually do some other exciting things for the district without killing the trees.
I'm scared about what those might be.
Enjoy a tree.
Yes, the KLN report itself, I think, really is like 57 pages long. So we did not make that in copy. I knew Dean was posting it, so
they
you have an
publish it in
electronic copy. I'm sorry?
Publish it in Kindle editions?
I don't know. It's an interesting proposition, though. This one is just a
Revenue
few
stream.
pages, and all I did was copy and pasted a few sections and sort of summarized a few sections. So I thought I would just save you, if you want to look at all 57 pages, by all means. Actually, in the KLN report, the last, probably 20 to 30 pages of it are in the form of graphs that came from the survey. So, and really, the graphs that came from the survey, that was done district-wide. It wasn't done specifically just for Eugene Field. We wanted to know as a district how we were doing as well. And so that data is not able to be disaggregated just to Eugene Field. So while I looked through it, it's not specific just to our building. That's the whole district. Just to get started here, I thought what I would do is just hit some of the high points. And I don't remember what page this is on. I think it's on page 6. Nope. There are commendations inside of there. And I went ahead and just put them on my little cheat sheet as well, too. I just copied and pasted them. So, there are some comments specific to Eugene Field. Something that they had noticed as they did walkthroughs and were in our building and talked to our staff and our site council and our parents, were that we have a uniform behavior management system, which really we started and really firmed up and put in place this year. It was observed in the classrooms, a strong commitment to CHAMPS, which goes right along with that behavior system, and a positive behavior support protocol, as well as our support staff was actively involved with students. As far as the USD 290 commendations, Their comments were that technology was accessible to all students. It looked like that was a priority of our district, that there was a commitment to CHAMPS and creating a culture of positive behavior supports, and a commitment to including students with disabilities into the regular education rooms. So those were some of the comments that they had made. Then the KLN report itself goes into the different turnaround principles, and they do have some very specific things listed under there as strengths and as weaknesses or challenges. As we go to make our plan in the upcoming month or so, we have to develop our plan around the 7 turnaround principles. So they did their report in the 7 turnaround principle kind of format. And the other thing that we'll do, which I'll kind of talk about in just a few minutes, is Kansas Star, which is an online assessment. So it will help us to kind of triangulate our data, and it also turns it into the 7 turnaround principles. So once we have that piece done, we'll be able to better identify what we want to focus on in the future. So you're welcome to look through there. I did not feel like I had to read that out loud for you. You guys are very educated and can read that, but what I thought I would do is make sure that you don't have questions about those few pages, and then I will talk about the recommendations that were made. As you look through the first turnaround principle is to provide strong leadership. There were several items of strength there, which was very encouraging. A few challenges, which we have underneath each one. They obviously want to give us the feedback as to where we can improve and what our challenges might be.
Shannon, just let me, if you look at this copy, it's page 5 is where the first turnaround principle is, if you want to follow it with that. So, sorry.
No, you're fine. And then it kind of goes through some of our strengths and weaknesses, like I said. And then turnaround principle 2 is to enable effective educators. Something I had talked to the board about already, but just thought I would remind you that we do get some grant money with this to help our endeavors. So once we identify for sure what our our school improvement plan will be, that money will help to fund and support some of our extra initiatives that we might need to put into place. Turnaround principle 3 is maximize learning time. That specifically is one that Janice, I know, feels like she can help us a great deal with and make sure that our schedule is what it should be and that students are getting the maximum learning time. Ensure a rigorous curriculum. Again, there are some strengths there, which is good, and a few concerns. I know one of which is something that we've talked about before with not having a curriculum director right now. Is just making sure that curriculum is nice and strong and that we're all on the same page about that. Turnaround principle 5 is to utilize data analysis. 6 is to establish a safe learning environment. And 7 is to grow family and community engagement. So as you look through those specifically, and it talks about what they saw during walkthroughs and what they had during interviews, they then move on in the report to recommendations for our school. So I thought I would kind of go through some of those recommendations under each of the 7 turnaround principles. So the first turnaround principle was to enable effective educators. And if you can look in either one on the big document that's up there. They start on page 13, or if you just have my little summary, they start at the bottom of the first page and are highlighted there. And the first one, under the recommendations, enable effective educators, provide ongoing professional development in the areas of reading, math, and positive behavior interventions. Luckily, we've started the positive behavior interventions and feel like that's something that's working really well so far, and definitely something that we want to carry through in professional development. And the other thing then is just providing ongoing professional development in reading and math. And we do have some plans for how to spend some of that grant money in order to provide really good professional development in the area of reading and also in some poverty training. The second one is maximize learning time. Just to carefully examine the way that our day is organized and to make sure that not only do we have enough student learning time, but that we have enough teacher planning time, which is a little bit of a tricky balance in each building. And this is something that we spoke specifically with Janice Nicholas about when she came on January 14th. She came and met with Dean and I, and that was one thing that she felt like she had some really good connections with some other educators that might be able to give us some ideas and sit down and look at schedule with us and see if we've got, you know, a good schedule in place or if there's adjustments that we could make to make teacher or learning time more effective. Ensure a rigorous curriculum. There definitely are quite a few things here, and most all of them refer back to curriculum. And then again, making that strong professional development. I really would like to see what comes out of our Kansas Star report when we're finished with that, to see how it triangulates with this and to know where to move forward from there. Utilize data analysis is another area. Use student data to inform and differentiate student instruction and provide tier interventions through MTSS. Because Eugene Field is in year 2 of implementing reading for MTSS, we still have had Judy Rockley coming. She has come 3 times so far this school year. She just came last Friday, and she'll be here 2 more times this school year. I would like to see where we're at the end of this year to know whether we need to continue that or not. I know Lincoln is a year ahead of us, and they just had her support for the first 2 years. However, I'm kind of wondering if we shouldn't extend that for us a little bit and bring her back year 3, even if it's just for some refinement and making sure that we're on the right track with that. Some other things that we're doing already to make sure that we have tiered interventions in place and are doing MTSS correctly is at the district level. And we've had several district MTSS meetings this year. We are looking at putting together a district handbook, so for new teachers that are coming in, for staff to know that they're following the right protocols, for teachers who are just thinking, oh gosh, I don't remember what we did, and have a handbook to go to, because right now we don't. Right now, each school, I think, has got a really good start, and we've had the same trainers, so we're pretty much on the right track, but we want to make sure that that track is pretty refined and that we're all doing it the same way. So we are working on a district handbook protocol for MTSS, and I think that will help each of our buildings, but definitely help us for sure. Identify and schedule dedicated time for collaborative teams. Actually, I met with my building leadership team today after school, and this was one of the things that we had talked about already, is how we can try to find some more collaboration time. I know that this is something that we've talked about at the district level as well, as how we can find a little bit more collaboration time for that. Let's see. Establish safe environment is another thing that we have to address and make sure that we have done all that we can do. Establish school environments that improve school safety and discipline and address other non-academic factors like social emotional needs and things like that. One thing that I know we have been exploring and are considering doing is watchdogs. So I think that that initiative would not only help establish safe environment, but also would help our parent and community engagement. So there definitely are some things that we've already started working on, even though we don't have our plan made yet and we don't have all of our assessments done. Definitely things we're starting to think about and move towards. The other piece of this are recommendations then. Those were all recommendations specifically for Eugene Field. The next section, and I'm on the 3rd page of my short handout, if that's easiest for you. It's in both spots, but it is recommendations specifically for USD 290. And these were things that were listed specifically on the report, not just to Eugene Field, but when they came and did walkthroughs in our buildings, Dean and I had decided it would probably be best for them to see all of our elementary schools. So if for some reason there was something that Eugene Field was lacking or resources that we needed, that we're not seeing because we're there on a day-to-day basis, but have that outside group come and see all of our schools for a good comparison. So they did come to each of our elementary schools, and so I think they feel like they had a pretty good overall picture of what our district looked like. And so then they made some comments about USD 290 as a whole, as opposed to just Eugene Field. So those were things to think about as a district. You know, looking at centralized curriculum and making sure that it's strong, developing that long-term strategic plan, which I know we've been discussing. So those are some of the recommendations that came out of KLN. Definitely we'll be taking those things into consideration. And like I said, we'll be looking at Kansas Star. Kansas Star, I can't remember if I've described this to you before or not, so bear with me if I've described it. Kansas Star is something that Kansas adopted, and Michael, you jump in if I say anything incorrectly here, that has a program where our building leadership team goes through an assessment piece. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's 140 or 150 questions, and it's not just a yes or no question. It's, are you implementing this? Are you just beginning it? Is this something brand new to you? And you kind of have to rank yourself on certain indicators. And then if you think you're implementing it, not only do you have to click, oh yes, we're implementing it, you have to give a narrative as to what's the evidence for that. Where's the data? What are you looking at in order to determine that, yes, we've begun that initiative? And then we have to decide, is this initiative an easy fix, or is it a difficult fix? Is it something that's relying on money? How easy is it to fix that type of problem? And once we're finished with that complete assessment, it takes our information, feeds it into the system, and then it sort of spits out some recommendations, and if I'm not mistaken, under the 7 turnaround principles, and gives us recommendations that says, here's some things based on your assessment that you might want to consider. So as soon as we're done with that Kansas Star, I think that will be really beneficial for us to then go back to the KLN report again and compare the recommendations that KLN saw as well as the recommendations that are coming out of Kansas Star in order for us to develop our school improvement plan and the steps that we're going to take over the next couple of years. If I'm not mistaken, too, coming right out of Kansas Star, we just get to click and say, ooh, yeah, that's specifically something that we feel like we can tackle and will make an impact with our school and our kids. And so it's all working through this Kansas Star system, and that's even how we submit our plan to the state. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, Dean and I have met with Janice Nicholas. She's our district facilitator. She came down January 14th for an initial meeting. I know she has the opportunity to be able to come back to us 3 different times, as well as some phone conferencing time if we have questions and things like that. As soon as we're done with the Kansas Star, we're going to try to finish it this Friday as a building leadership team and see how much of it we can get tackled. We may not complete it, but we're going to be ambitious and try. And when we're finished with that, I know Janice Nicholas is being sent to have some extensive training on Kansas Star, and then she is scheduled to come back to us February, and I think it's somewhere around the 19th, to meet with Mr. Catt and myself again. And I need to ask her if our building leadership team is involved at that point. I think they probably would be. And we will really go through the KLN report. We'll start looking at the Kansas Star assessments. Her role really is to provide us resources and feedback and be able to try to help us implement what we think will help. Some things that she has already mentioned to us are things like maybe a peer tutoring or a peer coaching type of program. She thinks that would be beneficial for our staff. Some other things that she's mentioned are the scheduling and some things like that. She's already got some things going in her mind, even though we're not completely done with the assessment part of it. Like I said, we're the first ones to go through this, so we're still learning as we go. But we're hoping that when Kansas Star is complete, we'll be really ready to sort of rock and roll and move with it. My question to her was, so then what? What's our next step? And she said, well, I'm a little uncertain myself, but I'm going to find out. So we're all kind of learning as we go, and we'll meet with her again in February and start reviewing assessment results and move on from there. Do you guys have questions for myself or for Michael? Are there anything specific that's jumping out to you or anything that's not clear?
Shannon, on the, and maybe Michael, you can answer too, or have some input on the Kansas Star. I mean, we have everything in place, Shannon.
I have a password. I've figured out how to access the assessment. And beyond that, I don't know what I'm doing. I made it pretty clear to Janice Nicholas that I had not received training. We did watch a webinar that was not quite as extensive or as helpful as I would have liked for it to be. I do know how to get started with the program, but after that, she is the one that will have the training and will come back and help us kind of decipher through that. So,
My question, and maybe you know, Michael, when they do this assessment, is it as a group? I mean, there's one answer, or does each one of the building leadership team do it? And
We just had a training actually today, and just to kind of bring you up to speed with the idea of this thing called Kansas Star. That is going to be the Kansas version adopted by the State Department of Education. Its national format is known as IndiStar, and there are multiple states using this tool as their vehicle to monitor and track school improvement. Whereas in the past, there was a multiple page form, several hours taking people out of the classroom to develop and write SMART goals, all beneficial, but that can now be streamlined via technology. Within Kansas Star, there are multiple options, Dean, to answer your question. There can be a format done where multiple folks sit around and talk about it and enter one response, or you could do kind of the collective approach where
And that's up to them.
are responding,
Okay.
and then it aggregates that to kind of common response. So most folks are going to do the approach where we sit around and talk about it, because that's where some initial stage planning can really take place. Whereas if people are in their classrooms doing that or in separate offices, you miss that and you just find yourself clicking through 150 items versus talking about them. So we're finding that collaborative approach will probably be very popular.
good.
So is this part of the Renaissance Learning? I saw that there, I Googled the KDS, the Kansas State Board of Department of Ed. Looks like there's a presentation day on called Kansas Star Proficiency Reports. Is that the same part of the
And
program?
I am not extremely versed on all of the decision-making about Kansas Star, given that that's a function of the State Department of Ed, and I am not one of their employees, so I wouldn't be able to accurately answer that for you.
Okay. I was just Googling and thinking they would have something about Kansas Star so we could see what the questions were. And what came up was the Kansas Star Proficiency Reports, which is the consortium that's looking at math and reading and that we're participating in a 10-state region.
I could find out just to be sure so that I can get information to Dean to accurately
Be
answer
good.
that.
And IndiStar is, like you said, the national one, and I think what Kansas has done is taken IndiStar and added their own extra indicators in there, if I'm not mistaken. So IndiStar probably looks very similar as well, and that might be one that you might get more hits on than Kansas Star. But I'm anxious to get started. Our school, our teachers are anxious to get started. They don't want to feel like they're spinning their wheels. They want to bite their teeth into something. So I think they're anxious to get started and see some assessment results and begin whatever work that entails. So
I was looking through that document, and I noticed there were some graphs in there about instructional, whether it was knowledge receiving or application or analysis and then active engagement. Is that what some of the Mrs. Archer's in-service was about active engagement?
It was. She spoke specifically about explicit instruction and how to keep students engaged, focused, very systematic approach. And yes, it definitely hits some of those areas of keeping kids engaged and what kinds of tasks they're doing,
Did she give
deeper
you
level
all
thinking.
the active engagement tools, like we used to call it drink, pair, swear, but think, pair, share. And
Yes, we talked about many of those ideas. The other notion that I really want to get into is a differentiation piece, which I think I mentioned the other day. But the reason we became a focus school is because our achievement gap is larger than the state would like for us to be, and that needs to close. And so I think by bringing in some differentiation pieces, which is another thing Janice Nicholas is working on, as well as Judy Rockley, I've asked them to find some really good training on differentiation that we can bring in for my staff in order to help those struggling learners rise to the challenge, and help our teachers to help those struggling learners and know how to change their own teaching to better meet their
And
needs.
so I was noticing that one of the graphs showed that it was like 60% of in knowledge receive mode in terms of classroom performance, and that was like, if I remember right, that's kind of high.
And as we get to Common Core, and we're going to need to dive deeper into that, deeper level questioning, that's going to be a struggle for us if we're only getting to the knowledge level and not ever getting to those
Yeah.
deeper levels. And that's definitely something that we will be looking at, not only as a district, but specifically for our school. So, yeah, definitely something that, as an elementary, we had decided to tackle this problem of instructional focus more now about the Common Core, which is why we brought in Anita Archer, and start some of that discussion instead of diving right into the standards. And we'll be starting to, actually this Wednesday, we're starting to deconstruct some of the Common Core standards and really look at those. But even more than that, at the end of the school year, we want to talk about deeper questioning and things like Bloom's taxonomy and how to get to that deeper level of thinking that we haven't always had to do, that you can get by with some things just being at the knowledge level. So that definitely is going to be a focus for us as we draw through the end of this school year and into all of next year as well.
You're going to feel like when you're done with that process, you're going to feel like you've been turned on your head more than once.
Probably. Our teachers will probably feel that way a little bit too. It's a lot at one time, a lot to bite off and chew. Do you guys have any other questions for myself or for Michael? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Kuntz, for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for your work.
Yes, absolutely. We look forward to more in the future, to hear from you. 4.02, board reports.
Marge is giving me 4 to do for her.
I was gonna say, we're missing,
No,
don't have any?
no.
No, you've let her down. Anyone else?
We had a good retreat Saturday.
Good.
Talked to administrators, had a real good retreat. Andy went on and on.
Yeah,
I've always known that.
Star of the
about
retreat.
him.
he was.
Yeah.
And when in doubt, he can always turn us off too, which is always a good thing.
Power of the net.
All right, 4.03, Mr. Cap.
I just have a few things here. First of all, just to remind you, Susan, and I know you did receive one tonight, and if you haven't given Susan information on evaluation, you can do that this evening or sometime very soon. Scheduled to review that February 11th. Just a quick note on safety, I say survey. What we're looking at is putting together all the issues on safety, putting figures to those, and coming up with a plan that you will have in front of you to make some decisions on what route we want to take on district and school security issues. The last thing then I just want to mention, the board elections. We have Russ Wilson here, Linda Alderman, and Tim Catlin all showed up tonight. Tim was at the retreat on Saturday as well. Appreciate you all being in the audience. And then Richard Jackson also has filed, and Norman Woogie, who aren't here. And then Bill Allagher did sign up again as well. So that is my short report.
Okay, any questions for Dean? All right, under section 5 now, policies, contracts, bids, estimates, and agreements. We have there the community survey.
Just wanted to review that. Elaine sent the last copy. I've looked at that. The administrative team has looked at that. And one of the things she asked was to come up with a list of 10, and I actually have 11 items that on question, I think it's 20, what is it? One of the last questions on the survey anyway, that, there it is. She has asked if we want to have things listed that people would rank. It's the last question, question 36. What 3 improvements described in this survey do you think are most needed? and she wanted to put a list off to the side or somehow on the survey that, so they don't have to go back and start leafing through about what they were. So I did a little summary, I guess, and most of them are the same that are on where they rank the issue, or rank those on question 21. And just put those down and then added, make plans to no longer use modular buildings for classrooms, and the language will change. And then the last one was improve school safety, somehow to control access into the building, some safety question. Do you think that is appropriate? And then there was one, I was gonna have her take off question number 12, which is adding breezeway between buildings as an option, between the high school and those. After just looking, I don't know how viable of option, I don't want that to be just one thing, because it's probably not a real viable option.
Yeah.
So I think I'll have her take that off. And then on question 24, there's a couple things here that under 24B and C, where it has internet access for home use by students and Wi-Fi access for home use by students. The way it's worded and the way it looks now, it looks like it's something that we would provide. I mean, would they, so I'm gonna have her take that off, because it asked a question earlier in the survey if they have it, and that's really what we wanted to know.
Yeah.
We're not gonna provide that.
Right.
So I think I'll take that off. And then we did get a list of, gosh, Teresa, how many registered voters in USD 290 approximately?
500 and some.
Yeah, over 9,000. Then I'll send her that list, and she'll do a random selection of those and do the mail back surveys, phone surveys, and all the other things. So I will get with her tomorrow and go through this and have the final copy, and she will get it out then ASAP. So,
And so then the
One thing-
timeline would be, I'm sorry.
One thing that's gone through on this whole thing, and I keep thinking somebody's gonna change it, and I think highly of Mr. Kane. I think he's a good Board of Education member, but I don't think we need to call him Brain Kane.
this- I'm glad you saw that.
Well, I just,
He is a musician.
he's a bright dude.
That's Brain Kraus, too. I'm glad you noticed that. That would.
One question though, Dean, is, I know we want to relist the ones for ranking. Doesn't that, what are the three most important issues? Isn't that a nice open-ended question where we could maybe get just some open thoughts instead of maybe being structured?
So if I ask her, or if we put on there to,
I mean, you know, everybody's got their opinion.
if we have the three and then a place under them where they can,
I mean, I don't know, I mean, I know.
You'd prefer just leave it blank like this?
is that what you think?
You know, you got a lot of times, if we just put those options up there, it's gonna be structured. And, you know, the question I have is, do we want some free thought? And sometimes you get good ideas, Bill.
Yeah, that's true.
And I didn't know, again, at some point, we ought to have an open question. It probably shouldn't just be, buy all the board members a one-way ticket to Russia, but I'm just wondering if that's a
We
nice
took
open.
those out, remember?
True,
Yeah,
but I'm
we're
just
going
wondering if it's
Costa
nice to say,
Rica.
what are the three most improvements?
Most important.
Well, do we put an open-ended question? I mean, what other improvements do you think?
I would still like at least one open question, is what is an important improvement that you would think is
Okay,
most needed?
I'll have her add that.
I just think
Good
there
idea.
should be some open
Okay.
question. Because there might be something we haven't thought of, and something that somebody could come up with an aha moment that says, that's brilliant, that's a great idea.
Especially if they have kids in the district.
And that'll probably happen.
Well, I still think we ought to give a chance for open questions.
Okay, I will have her add that then too. That's a good idea, and we
I
will.
mean, you do have the optional one, but at least this one, somebody has to think of.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the comments below isn't question 37, it just says open, you can make your comments if you want.
Mhm.
At least this one, we're at least getting an independent thought of what's important to that person.
Yeah, I will have her add that as well. That's good.
Okay. Other questions or input for Dean? All right. Section 6 on the agenda, executive session for negotiations.
I don't think we need a lot of time. 10 minutes probably is all. think we
Are we,
can.
Madam President, I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiation, whether or not in consultation of representative or representative body. The board returned the open meeting in this room at 7:50 p.m. The exec session is required to protect the district's right for confidentiality in its negotiating position and the public interest.
second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I have a second, Mr.
Second,
Chairman.
second by Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
And you have all the copies we need, or do we need to bring our computer?
Yeah, we won't be reviewing all that right now, you know. We'll give copies who needs them as we negotiate, but.
Perfect.
Did you leave this, Carmen? Was that Austin's? I think it was sitting over there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to back up for just a minute, Teresa wanted to know if we wanted to vote on the survey, and I said I thought we had had consensus about that.
I think we did have consensus, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Especially the brain cane thing.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
That's very definitely a consensus issue.
Do I have a motion to go back into open session?
So moved.
Second?
Dennis is supposed to second when he gets out of the restroom.
Okay, well, motion by David, second by
Brandon?
Brandon. All in favor, raise your right hand. 4-0 with one in the loop.
One abstaining by accident.
Yeah, one in the loop. Better abstaining than abstaining. All right, into section number 7. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, what is 7?
Okay. I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and that the board return to open meeting at 8 o'clock. In this room, the executive session is required to protect the privacy interest of unidentifiable individuals, and this is board only.
Second.
All right, motion by David, second by Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand. We've been presented with a list of staff.
I don't like Nancy Baylor resigning.
No, I don't either. I wish we
Congrats
could
with
keep her.
Nancy,
Reject
and wish her
Nancy.
well for
Okay.
resigning for the
So
second
tell
time.
Nancy Baylor she's rejected from
Yeah.
resigning.
Yeah,
Tell her to rewrite that.
yeah.
Make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
Okay, moved by Brandon, seconded by Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0 with regrets to Nancy Baylor, well, and anyone else.
Can I ask one thing? Do you have the list in front of you, Brian?
Yes.
Or,
I do.
I just wonder, is the second one under, second and higher, is that a full-time position or part-time? Do you know?
The para and OMS.
No, the other, second one.
The grounds is a replacement of STO.
Oh, that, yeah.
Of what?
Douglas is a replacement for Stoy.
Okay. Okay, good. That's good.
Okay. Did we already vote?
I don't know if we voted.
Oh, we
Okay.
voted.
Well, it's a vote then.
Okay,
All in
vote
favor,
again.
raise your right hand.
We voted
5-0.
again.
All right,
Didn't change.
I've lost control. Announcements, I've lost control.
Wednesday, 7:15 is the chamber breakfast at Prairie Star. If anybody's interested, let me know, and I'll make sure you're registered for that.
That's a 7:30, isn't it?
Usually, yeah, 7:15, 7:30. If you want to go, let me know. This Friday, George Wingert called me today and said that Stephen Anderson, the finance director for the state, is going to be here at Washburn Tower,
What time is that?
10 o'clock.
I want to try to be there.
I'll be there, and I invited all the other county superintendents and some other area people that, but if you can make it, that might be a good one.
Bradbury sent a nice email.
Do what?
I saw Bradbury's email.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Are you off yours, Andy?
And,
Okay.
My
Ours-
computer's not moving.
Yeah, we're stuck. But that's okay.
and then, this Saturday's the first legislative coffee at 10 a.m. I sent an email today about our AT&T issues to Pat
Oh, good.
and Blaine, and I'll talk to Blaine and hopefully the rep Saturday.
I'll
but
be,
they have a heads up.
I'll
I
get you
haven't
back
heard
on that one, Dean. Because he should be down for the first one.
KASB Governmental Relations Seminar is February 13th and 14th. I will go on the 13th until like 2 o'clock, and then we have our superintendent's council meeting, and I'll go that evening to the, I assume they're doing that again.
If they're doing the dinner, I'll come over from work and attend
The
that with you.
dinner's on the 13th, Dean?
I believe it will be on the 13th.
Usually, and then they go to a half day the next day.
Brandon, you want to try or not?
I'm gonna try, yes.
That's what date again?
February 13th.
I
It should-
can't on that date.
The day before Valentine's Day.
But I'll register us anyway for now and see where we are.
Doing fine.
The next legislative coffee is March 2nd, and then the mayor's prayer, you have your invitation there, is May 8th. And if you just let me know, I'll let the city know and register all of us for that. And that is it.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn. for this
Second.
evening.
All right,
Second.
moved by Dennis,
Sabotage me?
seconded by David.
My laptop.
All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
On a case.
Too bad we're not in Hawaii.
Well, you're gonna,
Marge here blathering on. We
Someone
got
dropped my
done.
laptop.
What time
It's
does,
broke in the corner.
what time does, KU?
By now,
It is.
yeah.
If you need new computers, would you rather have an iPad? This is really nice. I mean,
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
I'm not running.
Yeah.
Remain neutral.
Whatever you want to do.
because I know they're probably gonna be on the rotation to replace
That's
two,
where
but
they-
this makes more sense to me.
But if we don't need one,
I want an
we don't
iPad.
need one. I can order this.
Well, I really think they're gonna be on the rotation,
Yeah.
Someone dropped, I noticed that the
but
retreat
there's,
is like broken. in the
there's
corner.
just no comparison. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Was it me?
Well, we know that.
Okay, because this
Yeah.
is doing okay for me.
Hey,
Don't get me wrong.
Hey, Carmen?
iPad somewhere else, use them somewhere else.
This is fine for me because I'm gonna have my.
Carmen.
We're in the evaluation process to go.
I think that was, it was sitting in that area.
We'd have to approve some iPad decisions if you're using one.
You should have left. You probably got all of
You
us.
have your own, or I thought you were a Galaxy guy.
I've got the wife's side. I play with this. So we're just trying to decide.
influenza or stomach?
Well, I think he had stomach.
I would like to have an iPad, but if you need them elsewhere, use them elsewhere first.
Yeah. You know, we've had a ton of people testing positive for influenza.
And I don't think he went in.
You know the what?
Yeah, I don't
So somehow it's got worse.
Wednesday, we're completely full, I think, about everywhere, but,
No, not me, not me.
I think he did it on purpose because he wants an iPad. Dean, we've got a few if you want me to.
Oh, really?
Teresa and I were talking about that, and then we thought maybe we should wait until the new board comes.
well, if, you know, like Brandon.
Just now, Dennis said he has his own, and he'll just bring it, and he'd rather save the money. But David said he'd like to have one if we
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah, Bill would too.
Yeah.
We can spare them, I think, if they're gonna be approving purchasing of them, it'd be nice if they were using them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would, so they, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
But it's, to me, so much nicer.
It's so much nicer
not to have that huge
and
laptop
easier.
there.
Yeah.
Sort of believe the laptops are obsolete.
I know. They stand up there and hold those things.
I even presented to him today. Yeah. But I had to use that little cable because you can't wirelessly go to two at the same time.
Oh, yeah. That works good.
Yeah.
Yep, that works good.
Just have to make sure your battery's charged because you can't charge it and use it at the same time. So, you know, if I would've came with a low battery, it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, mine doesn't take long. It's like all day Saturday.
I think mine was just 60 to 40%.
Did it with that.
Yeah, that's because, I mean, I had to turn the screen
To
saver
sit
off.
there for what we do.
If I had it on 100%, it would be pretty mean, I'd have problems. But if I came in at 20%,